This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Phantom Boxing, a brand new boxing company starting in 2019. They sent us a great discount code for awesome subscribers. If you go to their website at phantomboxing.com and you want to try any of their 3 boxing gloves with a new one coming soon, as well as their Cobra Reflex bag, you can save up to 10% off any and all purchases if you enter the code CombatCorp10 in the discount bar at checkout. That's CombatCorp10 for 10% off any and all purchases. Thank you and enjoy the show. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source for combat sports. I'm your host, Al, the Postmaster Morrow, and today I have a gear review on the Heavy Hitters Champion Training Gloves. Alright everybody, as always, I'm incredibly excited to bring you yet another gear review, as today we have the Heavy Hitters Champion Training Glove. Now, if you follow the Instagram page, you know that about a month ago I received these from Heavy Hitters themselves. They got in touch with me and asked if I would review their gloves. So as always, I make the disclaimer, just because something was sent to me doesn't mean this was a paid sponsorship or anything like that. It just means that they wanted me to do an honest review of their product. They also sent me this really awesome shirt, which in South Korea is quadruple XL, which is crazy because it fits me like a regular XL here in the States. And they sent me this really awesome poster. Once again, if you follow the Instagram page, you can see me open this care package. But once again, as well, I'm not gonna just sugarcoat anything about it. I'm gonna tell you what I like about the glove, what I don't like about the glove. It's gonna be a 100% honest review as always. So I just want to get that out of the way before we go into the review itself. Going into the company though, Heavy Hitters is a really cool company based out of South Korea. I know they've had about 10 years of experience in crafting equipment, but I don't know how long Heavy Hitters themselves have been around. I would like to say about 2 years since I've known about them. And honestly, for the longest time, I've wanted to get a pair of Heavy Hitters gloves just because I love the name. Heavy Hitters, I consider myself a heavy hitter, and I want a pair of Heavy Hitters glove for the heavy hitter. So that's it's a big mouthful, but I always wanted to try it out. And if you go to heavyhittersgear.com, as it says on the poster here, you can actually see a bunch of other stuff on their website other than just boxing gloves. They have 2 different models of boxing gloves that I can see right now. They have the Champion, they have that, a bunch of different colorways, sizes, and they also have it in lace-up. And they also have the Flare glove, which is same thing in Velcro and also in lace-up. And you can also get MMA gloves, headgears, cups, hand wraps, quick wraps. You can also get things like speed bags and double end bags as well. So they have a bunch of stuff to pick from. So they're not just your run-of-the-mill, oh, we make a few boxing gloves. They're not bad. They make a lot of good stuff, and I've read a lot of really good reviews. As far as flagship athletes go, they don't have a whole lot of people as of yet, but I don't see why they won't in the future. However, if you go on their website, you can see a couple people down at the Mayweather Boxing Club in Las Vegas use these, and you can also see Roberto Duran holding one of the gloves up doing this on their website as well. So that's really cool, and they're a cool company, and they've been really responsive and really talkative with me, and it's awesome. They have not told me to say anything different from what I would ever say, so that's also awesome. They just want a 100% honest review. But going into these gloves, this is the H6-RBW. Now, I should have asked them what the H6 stands for, but the RBW stands for their colorway of red, blue, and white, or red, white, and blue if you're from the States. And this is also their 14-ounce glove option, glove weight option. And they come in 12, 14, and 16 ounces. You can also get them in a lace-up closure, so you don't need the Velcro closure like I do, but this is a Velcro closure. I am more prone to Velcro. And I will say one thing, for a 14-ounce glove, it feels more like a 16 to me. I really couldn't tell that much of a difference from most gloves that have 16 to this. The one thing they did tell me, though, about the glove when they were giving me small details were that it is very much a pillow Japanese-style glove, so it is good for hand protection, and it's not meant to break your bank. Normally I save the price for the end, but these are about $100. And they ship right from South Korea, and I'm sure with shipping it's probably about 100 and maybe 12, 114 bucks. But they always have sales on their website, and I think they're on sale for like 92 bucks at the moment. So that's pretty cool. So they are very much meant to protect your hands. So if you have brittle hands, or if you want something that's really cushioned for your knuckles and for your wrist and overall hand protection and even sparring partner protection, I would definitely look into these gloves before I go into the review itself. Now, each glove that you get comes with this nice jersey knit type of bag, and you can fit the gloves in, and it says it's white and it has Heavy Hitters Unlimited Energy with their star logo and the black lettering there. And I'll put that and fold that up to the side. And of course you get the glove yourself. Now once again, you have the RBW here, but they have a bunch of different colors. But this is the red, white, and blue, and we'll go right into the look of the glove, starting with the whole back of the punch surface is all a classic boxing glove red, and it's a really shiny type of red. You know, I obviously have the lights on it, but it shines, it kind of glistens, not like a metallic, but it has kind of like a classic car. If you look at a car, it has that type of shine to it, and I love the look of the red on this glove. And then of course you also have the Heavy Hitters logo back here, and it's that classic Reyes style oval logo with the black lettering and the white background, and you can even see a little black star here with a white outline, which is pretty cool. I like the way that looks, and to their credit, for about a month I've had these and I've used them extensively. This has not worn off whatsoever. The logo is staying right on the back. It's nice and screen printed. It's not going to fly off anytime soon. Most gloves will tend to fade away, especially when you're grinding on stuff and when you punch stuff and twist and you got sweat and occasionally blood on it. It's going to stain it. The glove's very clean. Now we go into the thumb. You have a tricolor thumb. You have the metallic blue and metallic white. It does look a little bit more silverish than white to me, but I can definitely see in the light where it would get the white, but it is RBW, red, blue, and white. And then you have that same classic red on this side. So once again, you got a tricolored, seam. Tricolor thumb, and I'm looking at the seams, my fault. And the seams are more of a whitish silver color inside of these gloves here, inside of the thumb. Then on the other side of the thumb, you have a metallic blue, if I can get a grip on it, a metallic blue here with a white piping to the thumb. Now, cool thing that's here is I never often see a whole lot of companies use stuff on the grip bar. You know, Everlast has their, Greatness is Within, and there's a couple other companies like Ringside, like the Best in Boxing, they have on their grip bar. But I like this one a lot. It says the #1 hitter. Now, you can interpret that any which way you want. It's embroidered on there in blue, and it says #1 hitter. And I interpret it as I am the #1 hitter, or these gloves might be the #1 hitter. I can see where you can get that either way. But it gives me a little added, pop before I put them on. I like looking down and seeing that, so it's cool. Going down to the palm, you can see that we have a bunch of double line stitching, which is black. So it's an average color for most stitchings on gloves, so that's pretty cool. And then when we go to the wrist strap, you can also see that we have the metallic blue, white, and red with blue piping on the wrist strap. Now on the other side of the wrist strap, you have Heavy Hitters Unlimited Energy. That's their slogan, and it's basically the same colorway as the logo on the back here. It's made out of a harder plastic material, but it's pretty cool, and it doesn't really hurt. Some gloves have a really rigid, bumpy plastic material that when you scrape against someone, it kills. But this is actually pretty smooth, but it is a little stiff on the end. The Velcro, of course, is black, as most gloves are, and we also have a 14-ounce stamp in silver right there. So everyone's probably asking, it looks cool, and it's a very standard type of design in some ways, and it's kind of like a basic glove like most of the other flagship gloves out there. But the big question is, does it operate well? Well, of course, when we talk about the outer shell, it is a top grain cowhide leather. On the website, it says genuine leather, which actually I'll show you that right now. Right here, it says genuine leather right there, which means that it's made out of actual leather, although genuine leather in the leather world is actually a step above pleather, but I'll save that science tip for another day. It's cowhide leather. So top grain cowhide is basically they took the hide, which would be full grain, and they just shaved off all the imperfections of it to make it nice and smooth, and that's the same thing you got here. So it's basically it's virtually the best type of hide you can get to put on a glove. And you can see that the leather is aging perfectly like it would be on most gloves out there. So it's definitely a higher quality glove, and it's not wrinkling too much. But the one thing I will say is that the leather, as well as the padding, which I'll get into in a second, is very, very soft and supple, and it's very movable. You got a good, I would say, about a half an inch of leather to pull up from the glove here, which is a really good hide that is stretched right over. And although the leather doesn't really come off of the padding too much, it is very, very soft. Some people will say gloves have soft leather. In this case, this is actually a pretty supple leather. So you got to take that into consideration, as well as the inch-thick padding that you have in the gloves. You have inch-thick, high-density polyurethane layered foam, which is what most Japanese style gloves will use, and it's very, very soft. I'm not even kidding. You can rest your head on it, and it feels like a latex pillow in a lot of ways. Not latex, but it feels like a memory foam pillow, rather. And it's very, very soft and comfortable, especially when you have it on your hands and you're hitting stuff. It feels like you're quite literally punching with a memory foam pillow, and it's actually pretty bouncy off some surfaces. And you get the same thing with the thumb. It's that same exact type of padding that you get in the knuckle here. It's that high density polyurethane foam. And you have, like most Japanese gloves, it's separate. So basically you have more mobility with your thumb, and you can tell it's separate by that seam right here. So they made all the padding here, and then they stitch the thumb on separately, so you have a lot more mobility as well. The thumb attachment does not come off too far from the glove, and it moves in nice and close. And that's a red leather thumb attachment that you can see right there. And it's very comfortable to have. And as you can see, once again, we have the seams right here that keep the tri-colored pieces of leather in a perfect spot. Then, of course, on the palm, once again, we go down to there. You have the double line stitching. And the little squares here, some people might be asking, that is keeping this in place. A little elastic band, if you can see it uprising, that's going to keep the glove from fanning itself out and making it very difficult to have good wrist support. So this is really easy to close it up towards the top, so it's easier to put on towards the bottom. Now, going down to the palm, actually, you can see that we have a very more of a closed cell EVA foam here at the bottom here. That's going to stabilize and splint your wrist and your arm from going anywhere but up, really. And you never want to go down, because when you go down, you're going to jar your wrist. Going up, not so much, because it's still going to support. You still don't want it, but you can support more weight going up than you can down, because this way is a lot weaker. So that little part is going to stabilize your arm. It's also going to help protect your hands and stuff. The grip bar is very, very soft as well. That's one thing. You would think the embroidery that's on here would make it a little bit stiffer, but it doesn't whatsoever. So it's still nice and soft here, and it's really comfortable to grip. Now, the inner lining here is a cotton style of, no, a satin, my fault, a satin style of definitely a polyester lining. It doesn't feel like the standard nylon that you would get in most gloves, and it's very soft. It feels just like the rest of the glove, if not a little bit softer. But the one thing I will say is, after a month, you do get a couple frays inside of the lining here. Putting it on, it's incredibly comfortable, and there's a lot of room, especially for a 14-ounce glove. For me, some companies will have a 14-ounce that fits me like a 12 or 10-ounce because of how small they go by sizes. But in this case, it's a nice big glove on the inside. So if you want to wrap your hands up perfect with a ton of padding, that's exactly what you can do with this glove, and that's awesome. So the one thing I like about that too is there's a lot of room going this way from side to side and going up, and it's incredibly soft, so you can once again put gauze and tape in here if you want a fight training wrap. And it's also very, very supportive in the wrist area. I'll strap it really tight just so you can understand what I mean. It's not coming off. My hand, because I don't have any wraps on right now, is going down a little bit, but when I say my hand is stuck right about where the logo is, my fingertips are right here without my wraps on, I just have to push my arm right back up and boom, we're right there. So the wrist support's really good. It's nice and stabilized, and you can see it's going to constantly send my wrist back down this way, and it stops me from curling down so much. So I can bend up pretty well, and also for my MMA and Thai guys, it opens very well. And if you're more of a parrying guy when it comes to boxing, boom, it can parry very easy. It's a very flexible glove, and you get a very, very good grip out of this glove as well. But let's go into the heavy bag work and the sparring view so you can get a better understanding of how this glove works and how I personally felt using these gloves. So I am wailing into the bag the entire clip, and they look really cool from a distance, for one. That's one thing you can say, but they just don't get any really big feedback off the bag, and that's the one thing as a puncher I don't like, but I do love. I can just wail into this bag. So when it says they are the #1 hitter, I can't help but agree in some areas, because when you smack the bag, you don't even feel any form of impact, and you can just wail into it as hard as you want at any point in time. And I love that about these gloves, and I think you will too. So right off the bat, you can see the really shiny classic car style of red, and you can see that it's nice when it comes right at your face. So when you're sparring with someone with these gloves, you're going to see this coming right at you. And as a sparring view, they look really cool in general. You can see the big Heavy Hitters logo there. You can see the red, white, and blue. So if you're from the States, you can for sure represent your country well. And these are really cool gloves to look at. All right, so my final verdict with these gloves. I like them a lot, actually. I was really happy to get these in the mail. They're more or less somewhat what I thought they would be when I was reading about them when I wanted to get them myself before they were sent to me. But there's, of course, a few caveats that I would change to the glove itself and a few things that I would keep for sure. But the first thing I would say is, right off the bat, I am a puncher, and that's one thing I do always emphasize to people. Although the padding is very soft and it feels like it's going to bounce off, it's still like most Japanese style gloves in which it does its job, but this glove does the job a little too well for me sometimes. If you absolutely need to feel your shots digging into everything, this glove ain't going to do it for you. That's the one thing I will say. It protects my hands more than most gloves I've tried, and especially for $100, that's a really good value for your money if you want to protect your hands. But if you need that constant recoil off the bag or recoil off your sparring partners or recoil off the mitts, you're not going to get it very much with this glove. So it is very much for someone that wants to smack bags really hard, smack the mitts, and smack your sparring partners. When it says heavy hitters, it was designed for heavy hitters, because when I say I have wailed as hard as I can into whatever surface it might be, I could go up to a brick wall of a building. I'm not going to feel it in my knuckles. And that's one thing. If you have brittle hands, I would for sure recommend these gloves to you, because the amount of knuckle protection you get, especially for me for a 14-ounce glove. But I think the 14 ounce is more or less just the weight in this case. The ounce thing is a whole weird conversation. I'm sure I'll make a video somewhere down the line. But basically, different companies size their gloves differently. Like Everlast does it by size. So if you get a 16 ounce, it'll fit someone like me. If you get a 14, it'll be pretty tight. If you get a 12, it just won't fit on my hand. And that's just how it works. Whereas this, I think if you got a 12 ounce, I think it's just going to feel lighter to you. There might be a little bit less padding, mayhaps. There might be, mayhaps, yeah, that's a word. Perhaps there might be a little bit less padding. I don't know how they do that. I'll definitely ask that and post that in the comments or something. But for sure, for a 14-ounce glove, and I think for a 16-ounce, especially for someone my size, it is perfect. I'm actually comfortable sparring in these gloves because of how soft and padded they are for my sparring partners. I even had my sparring partner put this on and say, hey, could you, like, just do a couple rounds with me of this? And when I say I didn't really feel like I was getting hit with much, and it wasn't taken away from my partner, it was just these gloves took away a lot of the energy from it. So it's going to give you a really good feel. You still definitely understand that you're getting hit, but if you need to like kind of save your sparring partner's face and body and their arms, I definitely think these are good. Every so often, the one thing I will say is my wrist did jar down slightly every now and again, but the wrist support is still good. And that was just probably because I was swinging so hard. I was going reckless a couple times, and that's really the only times it ever bothered me. So as far as the wrist support goes in the glove, if you have bad wrist too, definitely go for that. But I would say if you want even better wrist support, get the lace-up version of the Champion glove, because they do have them in lace-ups, and I've yet to really see many gloves that are lace-ups that really cause any irritation to the wrist, just because of how easy it is to tie the laces around the wrist to keep it completely locked tight in place. Velcro, you won't always get that same support, but for sure the support here with the Velcro option is very good. So the weight's good, the padding is good, everything's good about it. But the one thing that also kind of bugged me a bit was when I got it out, it was not even bugged me, it was just strange. I thought someone had used these already, because I took them out of the box and they were as soft as they are now, and they do have that broken in feel. Most companies will say, oh, it has that good old broken in feel, but it's still stiff as hell, and you have to, hit the bag for 80 different rounds for it to finally loosen up so you can do stuff with it. Whereas this glove, I took it out and I quite literally sparred immediately after putting them on. I'm like, and my coach is like, no, you're not doing that. And I said, coach, feel this. And he's been around boxing since he was 6, he's 72, and he said, I've never seen that before. He says they're the softest gloves he's ever felt, and for sure. The one thing with that, though, is because of the softer padding and because foam is a little bit more of a fragile material, or high-density foams, or open cell foams, as they're called, because there's little tiny holes inside of that, and that's the cell being open so it can breathe. they break apart. If you've ever looked inside your mattress, you notice that it dents in and it never comes back, unlike a latex, which always tends to retain, but in time latex even starts to shred and bubble and stuff. And bubbling in the boxing world is basically the padding starts to break apart, and that's the one thing I will say. After a month of use, it only bubbled in one singular spot, but it still bubbled, and you might not even be able to see it on camera, but that little freckle right there is a bubble. So maybe after a year you'll get a couple more bubble spots, but it's still pretty understandable when it comes to that, okay? But as far as everything else goes, it's actually a pretty stellar glove. The stitching is another thing I'm really impressed with. The stitching has not frayed anywhere. It did bubble, and it is very soft, and if you absolutely need that recoil off you, I for sure would not get them if you are a puncher per se, but if you really want to just wail into things and not have a care in the world, I'd go for them. But with that said, are there other gloves out there that might do a better job for some people? Absolutely. You know, you can talk about things like the Top Boxer Win 1 series. There's Winning themselves, but I honestly think I would rank these up there with those companies in general. You know, do I think they feel like any other glove out there on the market? The closest thing I could attribute it to is maybe the Adidas Hybrid 300s, but I actually somewhat like these just as much, if not a little bit more, than the Adidas Hybrid 300s, which is why I'm going to give these gloves a good 7.5 or 8 out of 10, meaning that I would use these for sure, like if I just saw them, and I would just pick them for my collection. But there are also other gloves out there that I would just prefer over these, but that's for a couple different reasons. For one, I'm a puncher, and for two, I just have different preferences when it comes to them. But I do think it's a phenomenal glove, and especially if you're getting into the collecting world, or if you just want to try something that's not like Title, Ringside, Reyes, Grant, Winning, all the big name companies, and you want to try something else, go for Heavy Hitters is my recommendation to you. And for $100, I would not argue with that price too much. I could definitely see maybe even 80. A lot of people would jump on these gloves a lot more, because I think a lot of people, for one, are going to love the idea that it's for heavy hitters. And I think the other thing is the designs are so cool, and they have a bunch of different colors out there as well. There's a bunch you can choose from. So you got variety with the company. They're really cool, and their customer service is awesome. So that kind of adds a couple other points as well. But like I said, if you have hand issues, if you have anything to do with like durability of your hands, or you want to protect your sparring partners, I would for sure look into these. And they're going to last you a long time. I would definitely give them a good life of at least 2 to 3 years if you're going to be using them every single day for those 2 to 3 years for sure. So with that said, everybody, I'm Al Morrow with the Combat Corporation, your source for combat sports. Thank you again, Heavy Hitters. The poster's going right into my gym the moment this is done, and thank you for the shirt. Can't wait to wear it around. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you on the next episode.